Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and we got a couple surprising stories to talk about today. I certainly wasn't expecting to talk about this, but according to some rumors that's going around right now, PlayStation is allegedly in preliminary talks with Microsoft to port one of their most popular games over to Xbox consoles. I mean, PlayStation's new boss has publicly mentioned a more multi-platform approach before, but is this actually true? And if so, this is not what most people were expecting by those comments. Then also, Sony is reportedly in discussions for a major acquisition that could possibly boost their IP count quite dramatically. So, yeah, lots to get into today. Of course, before we get started, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like these daily News Dose videos. But with that said, let's not waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and jump right into things, starting off with a new Xbox showcase. Yeah, they just announced their new ID at Xbox showcase in partnership with IGN. It'll go live on April 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, so just 7 days away, and they said that you should expect epic trailers, fresh gameplay, and new reveals. The show will feature new details on upcoming games like Dungeons of Hinterberg, 33 Immortals, Lost Records Bloom and Rage, and many others. Now, of course, you might as well just go ahead and cue up the speculation that Hollow Knight Silksong will be there as well. But just like I said last week with the Nintendo Indie World, I'm going to go ahead and spread caution to this. I personally don't think that it'll be there because I believe that it will instead be at the Xbox Summer Showcase. After all, this is one of their most anticipated Game Pass games. So I think an Xbox Summer Showcase announcement makes a lot more sense for Hollow Knight Silksong because a lot more people are going to tune in for that event. Now, with that said, I'm sure we'll see other interesting games here. Last year, they revealed updates for games like Sea of Stars and Axiom Verge 2. So it is still worth keeping an eye on at the very least, especially for you Game Pass subscribers. Game Pass tends to be a centerpiece for pretty much all of their showcases, but if you do miss out on it, of course, I got your back. That's why you're subscribed. Now, we also got a Sega leak to talk about today because, according to two different people, a Sonic Frontier sequel is currently in development. Daniel RPK first leaked this online, and then the popular Sega leaker Midori chimed in as well and said that this information is indeed correct. She also further elaborated and said the title is a sequel to Frontiers in gameplay style, but the name might change. Frontiers was Rangers until it was announced. So, more or less, it might not necessarily have the same name. It might not be Sonic Frontiers 2, which, honestly, I think that would kind of be a mistake because it would immediately be recognized for Frontiers 2. But nonetheless, Sega is working on another open-world Sonic game, which I don't think is really overly surprising. Sonic Frontiers sold very well. As of May of 2023, it sold 3.5 million units. And also, just as important, it was very well received among fans. To this day, it still has a 91% recommendation rate on Steam, which I can also back. I really enjoyed Frontiers, and so much so that I actually platinumed it. I don't do that with a lot of games, but I did with Sonic Frontiers because it really is that good. So I definitely like to see them continue with this formula. I think it has a lot of potential going forward, and I'd be interested to see what else they can do with it. I mean, I guess we've already kind of gotten a small taste with the Final Horizon DLC, which added 3 new playable characters and just more overall challenge. So maybe they'll expand that even more with their next game. Maybe they could bring in somebody like Shadow. That would be pretty awesome. And, if they do, I'll tell you right now, I'm all in. Now, also, Xbox Game Pass. You're going to love this, but it is getting another major AAA game this week. Yeah, if another Crab's Treasure and Iodine Chronicle just isn't enough for you, maybe you want more of a blockbuster title, well, maybe you'll be more happy about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Yeah, I know a lot of people have been really looking forward to this game, and it just got confirmed. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is officially coming to EA Play and Xbox Game Pass on April 25th. Now, if you haven't played this series already, the first game, Jedi Fallen, is also available on Xbox Game Pass, and these games are praised as being some of the best Star Wars games ever made. So really, these are must-play games for fans of the series, and even if you're not a fan of Star Wars, they're still good games to play. I mean, if anything, if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you can at least try it and see what you think. After all, that's the beauty of something like Xbox Game Pass. And even better is that Jedi Survivor is actually a better overall game today than what it was when it initially launched last year. Now, the reason for that is because it originally had performance problems, but they've since addressed that in a massive post-release update. So for those that were patient, Jedi Survivor now has better performance and image quality, which was some of its biggest complaints when it first launched. You just have to love it. You Xbox Game Pass subscribers out there are just so spoiled with game after game. I mean, this week alone, you're getting another Crab's Treasure, Iodine Chronicles. Both those are day one titles. And now, Jedi Survivor on top of that. Yeah, good times. Okay, speaking of Xbox, though, a very unexpected rumor popped up over the weekend. And if this is true, then console gaming as we currently know it has truly changed more than what we've even realized. Now, I'll explain why in a moment, but first, this comes from Nick Baker over on the Xbox Era podcast. Now, he's gotten some things right in the past, and he's also gotten some things wrong. So you can kind of take all of this as you will. This is only a rumor for the time being. But according to him, he's allegedly heard that Sony and Microsoft are in very early discussions about a possible Helldivers 2 port for Xbox consoles. Now, he reiterated over and over again that they're only in early discussions. So this is by no means any kind of guarantee that any of this will actually happen. So don't take it that way. But if anything, what I'll kind of say here is that if Sony really is in any kind of discussion at all with Xbox to bring over one of their most popular PlayStation-owned franchises, then that really speaks to a shift within Sony. You know, that basically tells you that they're open to the idea under the right circumstance, which that alone would be a completely new mindset for Sony. I mean, there's no way that PlayStation would have even considered it last generation. At this point last generation, their goal was to destroy Xbox with exclusive content. But that's kind of the thing about this generation. This generation has become so expensive for these companies. AAA game budgets are just completely out of control, and consoles aren't really growing generation over generation, which is extremely important. Yes, the PlayStation 5 is dominating the Xbox Series in terms of consoles sold, and while that looks impressive on paper to most fans, it's not quite as impressive when you start to look at the bigger picture. As good as the PlayStation 5 is selling, it's still tracking behind the PlayStation 4 in the same time frame. And that's important because what that means is that PlayStation is selling games that cost a lot more to make to slightly less customers. That's not exactly a recipe for success. The idea of increased budgets is that you'll also get more customers, which makes up for the added cost. But that's not what's happening this generation, which is why both Xbox and PlayStation are currently looking to expand beyond just their consoles. PlayStation themselves have even confirmed this at a recent conference call when the new PlayStation president said this is true, but there's a synergy to it. So if you have strong first-party content, not only on our console but also other platforms like computers, a first-party game can be grown with multi-platform, and that can help operating profit to improve. So that's another one we want to work on proactively. I personally think there are opportunities out there for improvement of margin, so I would like to go aggressive on improving our margin of performance. So there's no doubt in my mind that Sony, yes, is looking beyond PlayStation consoles. But so far, that seems to be for PC and I imagine mobile as well. I mean, even last week, they revealed their new PlayStation PC overlay. So with that, I absolutely believe that PC is going to be a huge part of PlayStation future, or at least when it comes to their live service games. Now, to port a game to Xbox, though, that would be a lot more surprising, and that's what we're talking about today. I mean, okay, live service games do benefit a lot from being on more platforms, and we've seen Xbox do this recently with games like Sea of Thieves and Grounded, both of which are selling very well on PlayStation, so it seems to be paying off for them, and honestly, Helldivers 2 probably would do very well on Xbox. The Xbox fan base has always gravitated towards good multiplayer experiences, and Helldivers 2 is an excellent game. I'd highly recommend it myself. But will this actually happen? Well, I mean, I guess you can make a case on why it makes business sense, because they probably would make a lot more extra money. But at the same time, It's just such a massive shift from what we know about PlayStation. So I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath personally. If it happens, then, that's great. But for me, I take this rumor with a huge grain of salt for the time being. I mean, what we do know is that console gaming is changing, and that does include Sony. We're in the midst of that change right now, so it's hard to tell what gaming will look like 5 years from now, and maybe by that point, PlayStation Live service games will be more open to the idea of coming to other consoles. But based on what we know currently as of today, and based on PlayStation's public statements, my expectation remains that Sony's multi-platform approach will be for PlayStation, PC, and mobile phones. For me, I need more evidence before I put too much stock into this particular rumor. It's still interesting to speculate on, though, so let me know what you all think about all of this. Do you think Helldivers 2 has a chance for an Xbox release, or do you just think this is completely false? Let me hear it in the comments below. Moving on, though, we do have one more thing to talk about, and this is for a major acquisition that Sony is reportedly a part of. This was reported by the New York Times, and you can see here that they said Sony Pictures Entertainment and Apollo Global Management, an investment firm, have been in discussions about teaming up for a joint bid to acquire Paramount. People familiar with the situation said Thursday. They then continued on to say that the two companies have not submitted an official bid, as Paramount is still in exclusive conversations with Skydance, said the people, who are granted anonymity to discuss delicate negotiations. But the potential with Skydance has generated significant investor pushback. So it does sound like somebody is going to acquire Paramount, and it's just a whether of who. Is it going to be Sony, which will be the majority holder with their acquisition, or will it solely be Skydance Media? Now, if Sony actually manages to pull this off, though, I think its impact will be a lot more noticeable just because Sony has such a broad reach. They have their movie division, and they also, of course, have gaming as well. All three of these could be impacted by a Paramount acquisition. Hypothetically, they could bundle Paramount with Crunchyroll, or they could add Nickelodeon shows to Crunchyroll, or they could even add it to a PlayStation Plus tier as an added extra benefit. It could also give them a ton of new IP to work with. I mean, speaking of Nickelodeon, this would give them franchises like SpongeBob, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that's really just scratching the surface of what they'd be getting with an acquisition like this. Paramount also owns things like Star Trek as one such example, and if Sony wanted to, they could develop first-party games using these franchises. This really would be a major buyout that would shake up both the movie and gaming industry. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens with all this. I'll keep you updated as we learn more. But even like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, the upcoming game, if they were to acquire Paramount, they would suddenly have games like that under their umbrella. So yeah, I think the impact for this would certainly be very noticeable. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but do let me know what you all think about all of the Helldivers 2 rumors. Do you think it's possible, or do you think it's false? But until next time, peace out.